Hey, welcome to HVAC Animated. My name is Jeff Bennington and I'm your host. And today we're going to cover part two of the 5-star customer experience. So, if you're the owner of a heating and cooling company, if you are on the team in any form, whether you're a tech installer, if you're on the back office, or you're a call taker, or whatever your role is, I think you're going to like what I have for you. Stay tuned. Hey, so welcome back to HVAC Animated. So, in part one of 5-star customer experience, we talked about some of the introductory parts and some of the things that I felt like were some of the important aspects to consider in your 5-star customer experience. And the first part is appearance, and the second part was attitude. So even though the first part may seem a little superficial, again, it's important, and your attitude clearly is important at every role throughout the company, even if you aren't customer facing, which means even if you don't interact directly with a customer, your attitude does impact the customer experience, because your attitude can impact the other employees, and the other employees who are customer facing could, if you cause a stressful situation, that can impact how their attitude is when they are out in the field. But keep in mind, attitude is temporary. It's your mindset that actually steers your attitude. So mindset is actually the more important aspect for anyone on the team to get a handle on. Mindset is something that you can improve. The way you see the world, the way you see yourself, the way you see others, the way you see money, all these things are impacted by your mindset. And if you remember, we talked about this last week. Your mindset is oftentimes developed by the time you're 7 or 8 years old. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how that happens because last week we talked about neural pathways, and that's going to come in today's conversation. And today, just to give you a little outline of what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about building rapport and trust. And we're going to talk about how that happens. We're going to talk about your company's goods and services and how you present them. And we're going to talk about communication skills. If we run out of time, communication skills will go into part 3. So now that we've reviewed a little bit, today we're going to talk about building trust and rapport with your customer. So between your appearance and your attitude, building rapport and trust is what begins to develop a 5-star customer experience, or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, whichever the customer actually experiences. And this is all part of that overall presentation, right? Attitude affects how others see you. Okay, so this is your presentation, particularly the people in the field, the service techs, the installers, the sales team. Okay, so presentation is everything. And most people don't talk about heating and cooling companies or any service industry, service company for that matter, in terms of presentation. But think about it. When you go to a restaurant, your meal, the way it's presented is really important. The atmosphere that you're dining in, that's really important to the customer's customer experience. Yes, absolutely. It's probably more important in a restaurant, more so than with what we do in the heating and cooling industry, but it is important. If you go to a coffee shop, the atmosphere and the ambiance is important. The reason why I'm bringing this in, because there's sights, there's sounds, there's smells, and all these things contribute to that experience, to that appeal that the customer has when they're purchasing a product or service with any company. So the way you present your product, the way you present your service is critical into the customer's experience. And If you're thinking, well, we're a heating and cooling company, we do a trade, we have a skill, we don't care about that. We're going to come in, we're going to tear out what they don't need, and we're going to put in a new system, and we're going to do a great job. Everything's plumb, level, and polished and all that. That's awesome. That's exactly what we're shooting for. And I'm not going to get into that. With most of what I say in this training, that level of skill and the quality of your trade, that's assumed, right? So I wouldn't argue that at all, that's important, and that is extremely important. But if you're a business owner and you're working on your business and you have other people out there in the field working on your behalf, presenting your company and giving them that presentation, of your attitude and with their appearance. That's what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about when you've got a company out in the field and multiple people representing the name on the company. And for many of you owners, it's your name. And so this is important. Presentation is important, right? Because you're not just a heating and cooling company. Like you're a business, and a business is a business. So whether you make your product, whatever your product or service is, that product and service needs to be appealing, right? Appearance and attitude and trust and rapport. This is part of that presentation. And that's what I'm trying to get across to you. So we've talked about that. We've talked about appearance. We've talked about attitude. Now let's talk about building trust and rapport, because again, all this is part of that customer experience. So it's a couple things on when you're building trust and rapport. A couple things we're going to talk about. Smiling. We're going to talk about sincerity. We're going to talk about listening. We're going to talk about empathy. These are all key words. These are all key aspects of that 5-star customer experience. And I'm going to start with smiling. Smiling, gestures, body language. These are things that impact customer experience, because circling back to neural pathways, when you smile to your customer, whether you're on the phone and you're smiling or laughing, whatever, or you're at the customer's home, when you smile, you are lighting up a neural pathway. And I want you to watch the video that's playing here, because a neural pathway is essentially kind of a trained response that your brain has been programmed to do over the course of your life, right? You see someone smile, you can't help but to feel at ease. You can't help but to get a sense of joy and trust and oneness and comfort, right? It puts anyone at ease. This is what a smile does. And this is why it's so important when you come to that door and you're meeting that customer for the first time and you give a smile. And of course, excluding COVID in this time period, a high five, a handshake, a fist bump, all those things start to build a sense of trust and a sense of comfort. And a smile is a really big one, because it makes people feel like, oh, this is a good person. I can trust them. And the word picture that I want you to think is when, like, you're with your mother, when, if you had a very nurturing home and your mother smiles at you and you just get this sense of, I can relax. Right? So this is the type of atmosphere you want to bring into your customer's home, because again, we're trying to build a 5-star customer experience, and every step builds into that. And this is why I go back to, it doesn't matter what your role is. If you're the first call taker, then you want to be able to build trust. You want to smile if you can, even if you're on the phone, because you're building trust and rapport, and you're being sincere, and you're listening, and you're showing empathy. And all these things add up. The next person might be a sales person. It might be a service tech. And then if you end up replacing a unit, it'll be the installer and the helper. All these people need to bring that same consistent experience to the customer. And when you smile, and that's like your first walk in the door, and you're being, you're bringing a good attitude into their home, then you are demonstrating an overall presentation that that is worthy of a 5-star customer experience. So after smiling, I want to talk about sincerity, because sincerity comes from within. And if you struggle with talking to people, if you feel like you're shy or you're just not very outgoing and this is difficult for you, then listen, those are things that you can work on, right? This isn't, no one's stuck where they are. Anyone can change. And if you, especially if you're a crew leader or you're a service tech and it's just you showing up at the door, it's really important that you're just comfortable, that you're yourself, and you're sincere, no matter how you do that. When you try too hard to be something you're not, it shows, and it's just off-putting. So be sincere, no matter what you are. Now, I say that if you're sincere and honest, but you are currently in a really crappy mood because you had a really difficult call before that, might be a good idea to just take a break, relax, start over, start fresh before you start taking calls again. So I'll say that. Now listening is key. So whether you're the first call taker or the salesperson, it's really critical, because when you get that phone call, the first time the customer calls you and you're the first person to touch that customer, it's important that you're listening, because you need to know what their pain points are, what their problems are that they're experiencing. And listening is a skill that you need to master. And this is also true for sales, definitely, because you want to be able to give the customer what they want. And even when you're in the home and you're a service tech or you're an installer and you're in someone's home, it's really important that you hear what they're telling you. So if they say, hey, be really careful of the dog or the cats, make sure the door closes, don't let them out, because that's really important to them. And listening to them is critical. So we want to smile, we want to be have a good attitude, good appearance. We want to be sincere in everything that we do. We want to listen to our customers, and we want to show empathy. So empathy is key to building trust, because we're in the business of solving problems, right? If they call us because they want a new furnace, it's because they got a problem. They're paying too high of utility bills. They're not comfortable. They want a new system, something more efficient. So we're solving that problem. If they call us because there's a flame rollout, or the furnace just isn't kicking on, or the thermostat has gone blank, these are all problems, and it's our job to solve them. And so we need to remember we're the problem solvers. And so showing empathy to our customers is really important, because that's why they're calling us. That's why they call you. So what is empathy, for those of you who aren't sure what this word means? So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So someone has a problem, you're like, oh gosh, you're trying to imagine what it'd be like to have that problem today. And in our business, you know what those problems are like. They're uncomfortable. You're hot, or you're cold, or you're concerned, it's going to be 20 degrees and my furnace isn't working. So having empathy and showing empathy towards your customers is critical to them having a 5-star customer experience. Just to summarize, we've talked about how to develop a 5-star customer experience, and it begins with you. It begins with each member of the team. If you're customer facing, your appearance, your attitude, if no matter who you are on the team, your attitude comes into play, because you all impact each other. And those that are customer facing depend on everyone to have a good attitude and a good mindset to steer that ship. And then as we talk about the overall presentation of your company, the next aspect besides appearance, besides attitude, is building trust and rapport. And then the final part of this training is on communication. And so we're going to get into that the next time, but hopefully this was helpful. If it is, please leave a review, or please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and give me some comments on what you think. Give me some feedback on what you're hearing, if this is helpful. If you missed part 1 of the 5-star customer experience, just go back, find it. I'll leave a link the subject. And hopefully this is helpful. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.